Hey, Mommy. Welcome to the Mami Collective podcast. I'm Paulina Roe, and this is your space, the No BS All Vibes podcast for ambitious moms who know that motherhood and big dreams go hand in hand. Whether you're killing it in the boardroom, hustling on your side gig, or just trying to get through the day without reheating your coffee for the third time, and yes, girl, we've all been there, this is the place for you. We're here to flip the script on the whole you can't have it all narrative, because spoiler alert, you can. Motherhood doesn't dim your ambition, it actually fuels it. And we're going to talk all about it, the wins, the struggles, and the moments that make you say, damn, I am really doing this. So buckle up, boo. We're diving into real talk, inspiration, and the occasional hot take to keep you fired up and thriving. This is the Mami Collective. Let's do this. Mami Collective podcast. We are back. Ooh, and I am so excited for my guest today. I am so excited that you're here because we've been trying to make this happen for a minute, and I personally love you. I love everything that you're doing. We're going to dive all into it. But Alicia Menendez is here. How are you?
I am so excited to be on with you. Thank you for bearing with me as we got this on the books.
Oh my God, don't even worry. Because honestly, one thing about me is that I make things happen. I like, and you're a journalist, so you totally get it. I'm like, listen, if there's something that I'm looking for that I want to make happen, I'm like, I'm gonna be on it. So I am so happy and just grateful that we were able to make this happen. So first things first is I just want to say, I love everything that you're doing. I think you stand for something just so much bigger than us, right? I truly think that you are a trailblazer in this space. So I just want to kind of put that out there first. And of course, I definitely want to dive into a different side of you, which is the mom side, right? I know you from like TV, podcasting, as an author. I want to get to know the side of you that's also like the mom, just because I think that's like so important. And I truly think it ties into like the overall picture or being of who we are as women, obviously in media. So first things first, I kind of just want to, dive into is wearing all the hats that you wear. So journalist, author, television host, advocate, podcast host. What has been the most pivotal moment that shaped your career path, do you think?
Not Paulina making me cry 30 seconds into the interview. I graduated from college and I thought I had a plan. I thought I was going to run for office after going to law school and being a lawyer for a period of time. I worked on a campaign straight out of college and I realized how much power the media had, and that became really interesting to me. And so I got a job on Craigslist, working at RNN TV as a television booker, and that just set me on a different path. But I kept there was a tension for me between wanting to find a way to be of service, wanting to work in government or politics or nonprofits. And I did that. I worked at Rock the Vote. I worked at Democracia USA. I worked at a think tank called NDN. But the power of storytelling kept pulling me back to media. And so I would say the most pivotal moment in my life is more of a most pivotal person, which is I met this woman named Josanne Lopez. I had been on TV. I was on Fox. I was on MSNBC. I was on CNN, and I was doing guest spots. And she called me, and she was a talent executive at CNN. And she was the first person who was like, you have it. Like that thing that you think you have, I am affirming for you that it is in fact there. Wow. And she was a real advocate for me inside the building. She tried to get other people to see it. And it never worked out there. I did tons of pilots. I sat in for all types of chemistry tests. And then Josanne left CNN and she went to the Huffington Post to launch HuffPost Live, which was their streaming service, very ahead of its time. This is more than a decade ago. And I was one of the first people she brought into audition. And she did not prep me for my audition, but I remember I was sitting on the couch. She walked into the room. She pulled down my little sheath dress. She took my papers out of my hand and she said, this is a conversation. Just have a conversation. Okay. And that little bit of guidance helped me so much. I nailed that audition. They offered me a job there. And it what allowed me to pivot fully from being a person who was in politics, who was trying to find a way to be of service, to finding my path and my voice in media.
Oh my God, I love that. I didn't know that. And how cool is it that too, getting that reassurance or maybe that the affirmation, right, from someone saying no, that thing that you have, you do absolutely have it. I don't know what your love language is. I'm curious if you know, but I'm wondering if it is, words of, what is it? Words of, I should know this. Oh my God, it's
affirmation. It is for affirmation. Great question. My love language is definitely acts of service. I want you to take out the trash and empty the dishwasher. But I would say that affirmation is very high on my list.
I love it. We'll see. There you go. I think it's mine. That's probably why I said that. And weirdly, touch has been mine. Like I like my husband. I'm like, let me just touch you. I just want to hug you. I don't know where that came from. Maybe after
I find
baby.
no, see, I had the opposite after baby. I was like, everyone is touching me all the time. Please stop with the touching.
No, I totally get it. I totally get it. No, I love your path, and I think it's a testament to not only being unstoppable, but truly doing many things in life, right? Wearing the many hats, which I low key I hate that term, but I love it and I embrace it because like I'm the same way, right? I want to do everything and anything that inspires me and anything that I can pretty much get my hands on. So I wanted to ask you also too. So like being on television now and then also or like well you've been on television but like to have that role and then create your own podcast and then I believe are you executive producing the Real Women Have Curves on Broadway?
I'm co-producing it, which is much less responsibility. But yes,
No, but that's amazing. So I love it. What's the requirement, right, for something to have your attention that much and for you to dive in? Because you're already busy. You're a mom, you are full time in media. So like for you to be like, yes, I'm gonna sign on to that. I want to do this. I'm gonna start a podcast. Like, what's your fuel to your fire?
I am. Do you remember when Shonda Rhimes came out with Year of Yes?
Yes.
I am sort of the opposite. I need to read a book called Year of No because my instinct is to say yes to absolutely everything, minus like a large social engagement.
Yeah.
So it is a good question you're asking because it does need to have a pretty powerful filter. And I read this book a few years ago, about essentialism and about sort of really deciding these are the things that I care about and putting your attention into that, even if that means that there are quiet periods where you're just cocooning and not doing a lot because you're creating the space for something that is really a fit to come in. So for me, my guiding lights are storytelling, community. I have found so much community in creating and then hosting Latina to Latina, which is my podcast. I was on TV for years, and there is definitely a parasocial relationship that you have with a television viewer.
Yeah.
They'll like to tweet at me to tell me like, when my lipstick's messed up and such.
Oh God.
Or when they feel seen in the content, like it really runs the gamut. But podcasting is so much more intimate because you were in someone's ear. You were in their ear on the train, in the car, on the walk to work, on the stroll through campus. And so the feedback loop from the Latina to Latina listeners was really a big part of what kept me going. Like anytime someone would say, I thought I was the only one and you have made me feel so much less alone in this challenge or this struggle, that was enough. That was everything I needed to keep it going. And then with a project like Real Women Have Curves, it truly felt meant to be. I got a call from Barry Weissler's one of the executive producers who's executive produced shows like Waitress and Chicago. And he was selling me on the idea. He said, I'm doing the show. I think you'd be interested in it. And I said, Barry, you don't need to sell me on this. I like Latinas on stage together telling a story about who we are and who our families are, sold.
Yeah.
And I think at this point in my life, I'm over 40 now, an opportunity to learn. I'm a failed theater kid, so there is an alternate vision of my life where I would have pursued theater. The opportunity to be involved with the theater was amazing, but also just the opportunity to learn, to say, okay, Broadway is a business. I am now looking at Excel spreadsheets that explain to me how the business of Broadway works. I am learning all of the components that go into something. The opportunity as someone who has been talent on television to take on the role of being a producer and support other talent, create opportunity. It was never enough for me to be the one who got opportunity. Opportunity is great. It always had to be about creating more opportunity for others.
I love it. I love it. It feels like there's not only just the opportunity, but like what can come after, right? Or like how many more doors can I open for other people, whether, like you said, they feel seen, they feel heard, or like just actual opportunities for other, especially like Latinas. Like if you see them on stage, what else can come of this? I mean, it's obviously iconic itself, and it just in itself right there, the story, which I love, which I actually want to go see. I'm going to New York in July, so I'm like, I don't know if you guys are playing then, but I'm trying to sneak in a little earlier so I can catch the show. I think it's
Please.
it's incredible because growing up, I'm not going to lie, I never felt represented a lot on TV, and I always say that my first one of my first, like, I don't know, people on TV that I felt like I could relate to as far as like looks and how I talk and all that was Adrienne Bailon. Like she just for some reason was to me when I saw her, obsessed with her. I'm like, yes. I'm like, I just remember seeing her on my television and like even Cheetah Girls, all of that. So that's honestly what I think of too. So I love that you're very hands on with this project. Now you
You
mentioned
are you are
earlier.
marking yourself as younger than me because the first person I saw on television that reminded me of myself was Steve Urkel because it was a person who did not identify as being white and who was a nerd. And I had never seen the complexity of someone who was nerdy, but
Yeah.
also came from a community of color.
That's so interesting. I've never heard that one, but I actually can see that. No, I mean, like, never in my life would I think that, like, Alicia Menendez would say that, but I see it though. Like, let's be honest, right? That is so crazy. And then you mentioned a little bit ago too, you're like, I need the year of no because I say yes. And do you feel, and I would love to kind of tap into like your upbringing, do you feel like that kind of stems from there a little bit of saying yes and sort of being that person that dives in to help whenever it was needed?
Yeah, I mean, I am a chronic people pleaser, but I also just I mean, I was raised in Union City, New Jersey. Union City, New Jersey is a very working class town. It's where my Cuban grandparents came in the 1950s. It's where my Irish, German, Norwegian grandparents would move to shortly thereafter. And for Union City, I grew up with a ton of privilege. I had two college educated English speaking parents who we didn't have challenges with immigration status.
Mm.
We never faced food insecurity. Like I was very aware of the privilege I had relative to a lot of my peers. And the message that I got from my parents was, to those who much is given, much is expected. And
Mm.
I felt that like sense of expectation and that sense of like, I am here to help. How can I make myself be useful? How can I find a way to be of service?
Yeah. I mean,
But that
yeah,
gets perverted then into like, homegirl does not know how to say no.
that's what
That does
I'm
not
saying.
mean you need to be helping everyone who asks for help. And you certainly, I think what has taken me a long time is um, to not overextend myself to the point at which I am not actually helpful to anyone.
That's interesting. Why do you say that? Or like what made you think
Because if
that?
you spread yourself too thin, then you're like not taking care of yourself. You can't actually help take care of others. And so like learning how to assert needs and boundaries has
Yeah.
been a later in life learning and exercise for me.
100%. And that's kind of what I want to dive into as well is the people pleasing you mentioned, because I always call myself a recovering people pleaser. I still think I am sometimes,
Yeah,
but I
you're not
definitely,
recovered.
no, no. And like, will I ever be? Sometimes I wonder, but I
No.
want to talk about the likability trap, because that's one of my books. So I'm an Audible girl. I can't like read as much anymore just because time.
Mhm.
It's on my list. It's my next book. I'm reading, I think Let Them I'm doing first, whatever, because I started that, but that's also taking forever just because I'm like, I'm going to listen to my audiobook and then the next day and the next day. So anyway, a likability trap. I need to read it because I fall into that so much. And I'm 33 and I work in radio. And I'm not going to lie, there's days where sometimes I'm like, I don't even want to say certain things on the air because I know that I'm going to piss off a group of people. And therefore, that equals not being liked. So I want to talk about first and foremost kind of what inspired you or what your experiences were that really made you dive in, right? And create this book for other people, especially women, to kind of understand, right, about being liked. Like, why do we want to be liked so bad? Or at least me.
Because we are women in America and across cultures, we raise women and girls to care about what other people think of them and to see themselves in relation to others. That is amplified for me by the fact that I am a Cancer. I'm a July baby. I am an INFJ. If you've ever taken a Myers-Briggs assessment, I'm a feeler.
Yeah.
And as one high level Latina I interviewed for the likability trap said to me, well, we as Latinas are raised with a PhD in graciousness. We are taught from a very young age how to cater to others' wants and needs and to always see ourselves as a reflection, not just of our immediate family, but our extended family, our neighborhood, our community.
Yeah.
And that's a lot. What I thought was interesting was I thought everyone was like you and me. I thought everybody cared. And as I started to interview women, I met a lot of women who didn't give a damn and they were just like fully themselves all the time. And they also paid a price for being themselves. I imagine that they were like frolicking, like, you know, dancing to the beat of their own drum. No, 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 no. Like they were being penalized by society for the fact that there's an expectation that women should care and they didn't care. And so that became really interesting to me, that it's like it's not enough for us to like free ourselves from this expectation. We have to contend with the fact like it shows up structurally. It shows up at work, it shows up in our discourse, it shows up in our culture. And until you reckon with that, one woman caring less is not going to be the thing that gives us absolute freedom. So that became interesting to me. For me, a pivot point was I was at this television network called Fusion. It was a joint venture of ABC and Univision. We were like really targeting English dominant millennials. And because it was tied to ABC, I got to do the Chew, I got to do The View. And I remember being on The View, and The View, you have to have an opinion. Like that, the show, they make it look easy, but that work is hard. It is
Mhm.
hard to have an opinion every day on every topic and to stand in the truth of your opinion and be willing to defend it, especially because you're often formulating the opinion on a very short timeline, right? You get in early, you're in hair and makeup, you're looking through the topics, and then boom, 45 minutes later, what do you think about this? I had no
Yeah.
idea because I didn't know if I was being the Alicia I was with my friends. I didn't know if I was being the Alicia I was with my parents. I didn't know if I was being the Alicia I was with my coworkers, with my husband. Like I didn't have a unified sense of self because I was always so busy being whoever people needed me to be. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes being mindful of other people, knowing the impact we have on other people, that is like a superpower that I want us to hold on to. At the same time, when you become completely governed by what other people think of you, you, like I just lose your entire sense of self. And so my work has been coming back to that girl I was at 8 years old who was, a little bossy and a little annoying, but knew what she wanted and knew who she was and was unwilling to compromise. And for me, some of that work has been around really pruning my friend group, like only being friends with people with whom I feel I can be 100% myself. Because to
Yeah.
your point about work, work requires performance. Like there are very few people who are going into work and getting to be fully themselves. I'm not
Yeah.
sure I want everyone to be fully themselves all the time. Like I'm not sure society functions that way. Um, but um but if work requires a performance, then you want your life to feel like a place where you can be authentic and fully aligned. And for me, that meant letting go of some people and really investing in some people where I was like, when I leave you, I feel like I am the best, fullest version of myself.
Oh my God, I think that's so important though, because life is way too short not to be, if I'm gonna be honest. I'm 33 and I'm hitting that point in my life where I'm like I had to kind of pivot with some people, and it sounds maybe bad to some people, but to me it didn't sound bad at all. I just knew like what was best for me. And you're right, like some stuff is performative or some stuff is where like I have to exaggerate on something, a topic, or really go in on something, but I want to try to be my authentic self, but I'm not gonna lie, because of social media and stuff, sometimes I'm afraid of the backlash and all of that stuff. It's
It's
tough.
funny. I think I wrote like Ability Trap at 33. So I do think that there's
Oh,
something that happens as you exit your 20s,
yeah,
which I always describe as a decade where I spent too much time selling and not enough time thinking about if I wanted to buy,
yeah,
where I just like sell because you're selling yourself in the marketplace at work, you're selling yourself to potential partners. And I wish I would have spent more time on the flipping. Like, does this like, do I like this? Do I want this? Does this serve me? So it makes sense to me that you are contending with it at this
yeah,
point.
yeah. It's real. What about too, that challenging thing where you're like, I want to be liked, but I want to be respected. And I think from my experience, I've seen people who can do that successfully, but not many women can do that
I
successfully.
I think it is the equivalent of like landing a triple axel.
Mm,
It is possible but improbable.
mm,
And that is because we want what we want of leaders, which is to be like strong and commanding, and what we want of women, which is to be communal and caring and there for the benefit of all, are very much in conflict. And so when a woman like does show her warmth and her kindness, she's often disregarded as a leader. And when a woman is sort of like hard charging and let's get it done, she gets told that she is not likable. So the possibility of doing both really, really hard. And for women, this tends to show up often in like feedback sessions where people will say like, Paulina, like you are awesome. Everybody loves you. We're just not sure you have what it takes to go to middle management. And one of the women I interviewed for the book is a coach, and she gave this great piece of advice, which is you say, thank you so much for that feedback. Can you draw a line for me between how I'm showing up and how it is impacting the results of my work? Like
mm,
always moving back to results. Is this actually impacting the work product? And it may, and you have to be open to the fact that that is happening. I know, Paulina, you pride yourself on being deliberate. Sometimes your attention to detail actually shows up as indecision. 2 weeks ago, you were late delivering the deck to the client and we lost that account. Okay. Like that is actually a piece of feedback that you can begin to metabolize. People
mm.
just saying like, you don't like seem big enough in your chair. You use your hands too much like that. Okay. So
No, that's actually very fair. I'd rather walk away with the feedback that's actually going to not only help me improve or help any solve any questions that I might have, right? Answer the questions that I'm walking around with, because that's not good enough, though, to be honest. If you're going to tell me, right, that I talk too loud with my hands, or I don't know, whatever, it might be where it's something in that regard. Like that's gonna not only drive me crazy, but I don't really find that acceptable. You know what I mean? So that is so interesting. I love that. So, well, I love what you said, but not that it's happening to us first and foremost. But I do want to kind of dive into the mother side of you as well, because you've got a lot going on, obviously, and the whole like how do you balance everything thing. But for me, it's more about how do you kind of balance the act between your professional life and then the demands of motherhood. Because how many kids do you have now?
I have two. I have
You
an
have
8-year-old and
two?
a 5-year-old, two
Oh my God.
daughters.
Okay, so you are like they're little. Yeah. Okay, but it's a fun age, I'm sure. I kind of can't wait for that age because I want to like start
It's
doing
so
cute
fun.
things. Yeah, I'm like,
It's so fun, and also like their personalities become clearer and they start having some autonomy. I'm
yep.
still wiping butts. I'm waiting for that to be over.
Yep, that part will be nice to kind of,
Mhm.
move past those days. How fun. So how are you like balancing both? Like when it comes to like all your projects, obviously, being in media, working, and then just the demands of motherhood, which I'm discovering. I have a 1-year old, so I'm discovering them all the time.
One of the most surprising things to me about motherhood was how much I loved it and how much I love being with my girls. And I used to think things like, oh, parents rush to the recital or the soccer game because they don't want their kids to feel bad. Maybe
Mm,
that's true for some parent. I'm rushing there because I want to be there and I want to see it. And I know that this period is very brief and I want to just capture all of it. Um, so for me, I had a funny situation, which is, we moved from Miami to New Jersey so I could take this job at MSNBC. A few months later, we end up in lockdown. And so they build a studio in my garage. I am still nursing at the time. So I have like my husband would have to take the kids to the top floor of our little narrow townhouse. And sometimes you could like hear the little one screaming, like while I was on TV, and the
oh
producers
my,
would be like, we can hear the baby. I'm like, it's locked down, so I'm not sure where she's supposed to go. Like,
right.
and then he'd bring her to me 2 hours later, and I would like nurse her sitting in the studio. And it was a thing that couldn't have been anticipated or expected, but it set the tone for like these two things can be happening all the time together if you allow for some mess and if you are really firm about what is important to you. Obviously, the biggest thing is having a great partner, having a support. If you want a partner, having a great, making sure that partner is a great partner, having a support structure around you, and then having institutions like your workplace that allow you to have a degree of flexibility. As that has changed, no, I worked weekends. You could look at that as glass half empty. Weekends mean everybody else is out enjoying their weekend and you're working. What
Mhm.
it meant for me was I had Monday through Friday where, yes, I was working Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but I could get the kids on the bus. I could get the kids off the bus. I could drive them to dance. I could show up at Board of Ed meetings. I could show up for PTO volunteer things. And I saw it as I have this period of time where this is an opportunity. And so I'm going to sprint it out. Like I am going to do as many pickups and drop offs and bedtime readings as I possibly can, because this will ebb and flow. And there'll be another period where I'm not as available to my children, and I want them to feel enveloped in my love in the period in which it is possible to give that to them. So now that I am working a more regular schedule, which is Monday through Friday, I'm not as available.
Mm.
I'm not getting them off the bus. I'm not able to read to them before bedtime. And it has shifted to mean that Saturday and Sunday, we need to have really special mommy daughter time where
Right.
the little one loves to go to the grocery store. We go to the grocery store together. She's able to get a treat. The big one is much more physically active. I take her out for a bike ride, like just making sure that I am not ever beating myself up. And that when I have them, I am keyed in on them.
Yeah. And I think that's great advice because, I know they say like, oh, the balance, you can have it all. It's like, yes, you can. You absolutely can. But it's like,
Mhm.
it depends. Like, I think there's many factors, right? And I think there's no one size fits all for motherhood. That's what I'm learning too. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I will say the one common denominator I have seen for people who have a big job and children is um, if they have a partner, that partner is active,
mhm.
like hands-on and active, and a lot of 5:30 and 6 a.m. wake ups, because it is the most guaranteeable alone time part of the day. Which I say, but then my 5-year-old comes and finds me at 6:30 in the morning.
Of
But even
course.
still, it is like it's your best shot at having
Yeah.
some time to do whatever it is you want to do.
Oh yeah, that's like my little secret fantasy because I do morning radio, so I do a morning show and I get up for work at 4 and then I'm out the door at like 4:45, but in my little fantasy, mind, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I get to sleep till 6 and then I get to wake up and have my coffee in peace." And then she wakes up at 8, which is not even true. She wakes up like between 6 and 8, it depends on the day, but I'm like, "Oh my God, that's like my dream." But then there's some days where I'm like, "No, like I've got the routine going, we're fine." But I love my slow weekends because exactly what you said. I'm trying to move with, just trying to move with peace because I need some kind of peace in my life, and that
trying to
happens to
move
be
with
it.
trying to move with peace. Listen, I also think like a common denominator for ambitious Latinas is that we come from people who had to work 3 or 4 jobs.
Yes.
And we come from people who were waking up at 4 in the morning, not because they had their dream job and they got to share their voice and their story with the world, but
Mm,
because they had to go grind it out in a factory, in a field. And so like I think our lens on how lucky we are
yeah.
is shifted. Um, and I'm like always grateful for that. It's like, yeah, I work really hard. Yes, there are days where I don't sleep that much, but I'm getting to like live all my dreams. That's like
Yes.
how lucky to
No.
have a life that I don't feel I constantly have to take a break from. Like, and like then how much responsibility to feel like, okay, well, like, how do we make this possible for more people?
I love that. I've always been an advocate of that because I'm like I I'm not the first one, I'm not the last one, but how can I help the next generation or somebody who, wants to come up in this way? And that's kind of like I felt like my one of my missions too. So I love that you're saying that because it's like so important to me, especially you have Latina daughters. Like I have a Latina daughter. Like I want her to know like she can be whatever the fuck she wants to be because I had the opportunity to do that, but I know my mom didn't, right? And my grandma
Uh-huh.
didn't. Like I feel like in a way I'm living my dreams for them too. And not in a way where like they've dictated my future, but I know that they're so proud of me and like I feel like you must feel the same way.
You have to come see Real Women. You're gonna just bring tissues is all I'm saying,
Oh
Paulina.
my God, I'm already like about to cry. And I was watching something on Instagram and I was like, I need to go. Oh my God. No, I will. I will. Oh, that's so crazy. So, what about with you and your daughters, right? How are you sort of raising them with like their culture, right? Like how like I'm sure culture identity is very important to you. So is it important to
Yeah.
you for you to raise your daughters that way too?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like one of my great shames is that I don't speak Spanish. I'm a total no sabo kid.
Me too. I'm mixed,
You
so it's
know,
fine.
yes, well, same. And I think especially because it's, a pattern I see often is like if it's the dad who's the Spanish speaker, it is less likely
Mhm.
that you grew up speaking Spanish because we spend so much time with our mothers, especially in the early period of our lives. My abuela watched us a lot. And so like I had some familiarity with the language. I learned it in high school. I speak it. I think it would be generous to say I speak it conversationally.
Mhm.
And I mean like one glass of wine and I'm like fluent, but like not really.
Same.
Um, just the bravery comes out.
Mhm.
We really dropped the ball with our older daughter. My husband was speaking to her in Spanish. I was speaking to her in English. She was verbally delayed and we just panicked. And they said this often happens with children who are learning two languages at the same time. And we made the decision to revert to English. And I think that was a huge mistake. And then by the
Mm.
time the second one came, sort of, we were in the pattern of speaking English. It was even hard to get my husband's parents, who were Spanish dominant, to speak Spanish with the children because they were so accustomed to speaking English with me. And like they had never gave themselves over to the fact it's like I can understand fluently. I can understand like 90%. Like, like there's some jokes and some like
Totally get it.
stuff that I miss. But so that's like one piece that I am still contending with, is like how to pick up the language piece. But because that's not how I was raised, I also don't feel that that is the entirety of it. So it's like we have like salsa and Bad Bunny parties in our living room. We live in an area that is very Latino. And so, it is around in their classmates and in the food that we have access to, even just like the grocery stores that we have access to. It's not like they have like Latino aisles. It's like they're like, this is the Mexican aisle, this is the Cuban aisle. Like,
Uh-huh.
it is nice to have access to those things. Um, and I think my husband and I both grew up hearing so much about Cuba as a place that we had never been. But our parents were very clear about making sure that we understood it was integral to who we were.
Yeah.
And so that to me is like carrying that thread of like, yes, we are from here, we are American, we live in the United States, but we are also people who come from somewhere else and come from people who, if they had had the choice, would have chosen to stay,
Mhm.
but didn't. And like, I think just in ways that are age appropriate, making sure that that piece is passed down is really, it's really important to me and my husband. And I would say, I think it's, among the many, many, many reasons that we chose to get married was that we had such clarity around the fact that like we both wanted to have kids, we wanted to raise kids with our culture, and we wanted to raise kids who felt that they had a responsibility to leave the world better than they found it.
I love that. And I love that you're saying everything that's coming to my mind because my biggest thing is like when I raised my daughter, right? When I knew I was pregnant and I knew it was a girl, which I prayed for because I was like, I need a girl. That was my one thing. I was like, God, please, like, if you could do me a big favor. I just always wanted a little girl, and I got my daughter, and I was just so happy. And one thing that I said was like, people are like, oh, blah blah blah. Like, what do you? Which is weird. Like, what do you want her to be when she grows up? And I'm like, I just want her to be a good person. Like I want her to be a solid ass person, because this the way this world is, and becoming a mom, I've discovered how scary the world is. I don't know if you feel me on that, but ever since becoming a mom, I look at the world different. I look at a lot of things different. The world, and when I see other moms, and I saw this as a quote, so I don't want to take credit for it, but I never noticed other moms until I became a mom, if that makes sense.
100%. I often say that becoming a mother revealed to me the limits of my own empathy. That I thought I understood the mom who was like, well, it's 4 o'clock. I have to go pick my kid up. But there's like a little part of me that's like, lucky her, gets to leave at 4. No. Like she went from one job to another job and she's going to go back to the first job once pickup's done.
Yeah.
Um, and to your point, it's like, I think, especially since all of our daughters are under the age of 8, it is about being a person who is kind,
Yes.
clear and direct in their communication, aware of others. And it's also really humbling to realize like kids come pretty baked. Like there are things about my daughters are very different from one another. They're being raised in the same house with the same parents, with the same access to the same things, and they are
Hmm.
just different. And there are certain things that are easier to impart on one than on the other.
I agree. Well, yeah, because I have a sister too, and people always say, well, we have different dads too, but same household, like her dad was my stepdad for years, my whole life basically, but we're so different. And I think that's real. I think it's a part of who we are as people, but also our upbringing. I think all of that kind of ties in, and it's really it's very interesting that you said the whole teaching your daughter Spanish thing, because I just wrote a guest post. It should be out when this episode drops, so check it out. I'm really excited. It's for Hip Latina, and it's literally called "Why I'm Raising My Daughter to Speak Spanish as a No Sabo." And I'm so passionate about this. I will say words wrong all day, every day. I don't care. I just want her to understand, like, we are speaking Spanish and you have all the liberty in the world to say it correctly. Like, I'm going to do my absolute best. And my Spanish, like you said, it's not perfect. It's not even close to perfect. I don't claim it to be. But I think one of the things that I'm proud of and our ancestors are proud of is, like, I'm trying. And I think that's all we can do. You know what I mean? I'm like, listen, like we're gonna say words funny. Maybe mommy won't say it right, but I want my daughter to learn. Because I think it's gonna be very important to her, I think, when she grows up, not only to communicate with a whole other group of people as far as like, like in media, right? We say like you're in the American market or you're in the Spanish market. Like I want her to be able to speak to obviously her family, but also like to a huge population of the world, no matter what she does. I don't care if she's, a carpenter. Like I want her to be able to speak to another person in her native tongue. And I'm also Polish too, so I'm teaching her that. So we got three languages running around this house. It's
I'm
wild.
very impressed. I'm impressed.
No, it's
I'm
crazy.
envious. I'm all the things.
Oh, you are?
No, I said I'm impressed and
Oh,
I'm
oh,
envious. I am
I,
all the things.
I love it. No, I mean, same. I'm trying my best though. But to me, yes, it's important for like connecting to culture. And then it's just really important for her, I think, to know that, this is where you come from. So I love that you're doing that. Keep it up. Don't give up. I know some days I'm like, damn, you know what? I'm like, we're gonna just be English in this house because I don't know anymore. It's hard. But I love it. I love that you're like so transparent about that too. So what about like as far as motherhood, they say motherhood changes you, it changes a lot, in your life. What were some of the biggest surprises do you think that you've come to found about being a mother?
I don't think I had surprised me.
Or like anything that maybe like you didn't expect, right? Like, oh, like, for me it was weirdly like I thought I was gonna lose a lot of sleep, but I didn't. Because I work in morning radio, so I was up all the time and I used to party a lot before I go to work. I was bad. So like when she would wake up at like, 2 in the morning, I'd be texting my friends who also had newborns and they were like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm just like wide awake. I'm like, we're good. But now it caught up to me a year later. But I was surprised. I was surprised.
I I guess I was surprised by how much I love motherhood
Hmm.
and was surprised by how a lot of it felt very intuitive for me. Um, and it should be unsurprising to me, but I had just a lot of trouble asking for help at the beginning. And
Mm.
I was really desperate to prove that I was who I was before. I remember after I had my first daughter, I like had a weird obsession with getting out birth announcements and like getting like a beautiful photo of her and like putting the text on the page and getting addresses and setting like here I am, like I'm leaking breast milk.
Yeah.
I'm like not sleeping. And this is the thing that I decide I want to spend the last of my capacity on. But it was really like I wanted to prove to myself that I was who I was. And
Yeah.
I don't know about anybody else. I was not who I was before I had her. I had changed so radically. And in the sense that my capacity had expanded, my heart had expanded,
Yeah.
my way of seeing the world, because now it wasn't just me in the world, it was this person I loved more than myself who was about to go into the same world. And so um, I think just the thing that surprised me was how much I wanted to hold on to the person I was before, and how long it took me to come to the realization that I'd become a deeper, more interesting version of myself whose capacity had grown and had changed. And that some of the things that had been important were no longer important. And it took me a while to let go of some of those things and some of those appearances.
I think you and I are the same person because I no, Alicia, like it's bad. I was like, I'm the same person. You guys can't tell me nothing. Like I would literally go on that radio and say that to the point where people were texting in, or like my coworker's sister who has two kids, and she's like, "Is Paulina still doing that thing where she said she's gonna like be the same person?" And I was like, "How dare you?" And I want that on a t-shirt though, because you said I became a more deep and more interesting person. I have never heard it that way, and I literally want that on a t-shirt because people only talk about I'm gonna call it the negative part, right? Like you're different. You can't go out as much anymore. Oh, you're different. Like, you're more this, you're more that, you're more reserved, whatever it might be, right? I've only heard people speak about mothers in a negative way of, oh, you've changed, right? In the sense of like your friends or whatever, people that you're like, oh, this person is no longer available. This person can't go out, whatever. And I love that you said, no, 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 I've become more interesting. Not boring, because people love to put that label on moms for some reason, like, oh, she's boring now. She doesn't go out, to the bars anymore, whatever. And that drove me nuts. And I was trying so hard, like you said, to sort of prove like I'm the same person. I'm so fun. Look at me. I'm still this, I'm still that. And that wasn't the truth. Not even close.
The one asterisk I will put on this is that my husband periodically will be like, oh, we need to talk about something that's not the kids. Or like we'll go out to dinner with other
Yeah.
people or parents, and he'll be like, all right, 15-minute time limit on talking about the kids. Because it is easy to get pulled into that being the
Yes.
entirety of your identity, who you are, because it's like when I have nothing to think about, that's what I'm thinking about, is my default to be like, what are the girls doing? What are they up to? Who needs a leotard ordered? Like who, like who needs the oranges sliced? So that it took some learning for me to be
Yeah.
like, they are my whole world, and there's other stuff too.
No, yeah, I completely agree with that. And I always say I'm a mom first. Like I am a mom first and foremost. Like that is who I am today. But I like to say that I am a lot of other things too, because all these other things that I do, and I feel like you highly would agree with this, it's just it fuels me and it makes me a better mother and it makes me feel fulfilled.
Person.
And if I'm
100%.
fulfilled, I guarantee you, you go home to your girls and you are the best mom you can be. I promise you that. I love it.
100%.
Oh, I love it. So I kind of wanted to just really quick ask you about success, right? Versus when you were kind of like on your come up, right? When you were like in that era of hustle and in that era of like, making sure that you were doing everything that you wanted to do. So you had your own definition of success at that time.
Mhm.
Since becoming a mom, has your definition of success changed or
All
evolved?
right. First of all, thank you for treating me like someone who's arrived, because I will forever feel like I am someone who is still on her come up. Like there is no peak of the mountain. Um, I think a thing that, and I'm not sure if it is in motherhood or just getting older and more seasoned, is because I have chosen a career where there are a limited number of seats and you
Mhm.
are constantly in a game of musical chairs. I wanted to believe that you could force your moment. I wanted to believe that if I just worked a little bit harder, then opportunities would open up for me. And I didn't leave enough reverence or room for the fact that there's just luck involved and there's timing involved. And yes, you have to be the most prepared. You have to be working the hardest. And then on top of that, the moment has to arrive where the opportunity opens and you are the person best suited to step into that opportunity. That happened for me a decade ago at HuffPost Live. It happened again for me at Fusion when they needed an English, speaking Latina who was willing to move to Miami, who had some broadcast experience. Like, it
Right.
happened then. And then my luck also ran out for a period of time. After I had my first daughter, I had to put stuff together freelancing. I was doing PBS, I was doing Vice, I was writing for a bustle, and I had to make my own magic in that period and just refuse to go away.
Mm.
And like, I think of it almost like I had to keep doggy paddling so that the next time a ship came in, I would still be in the water.
Yeah.
And that's hard. Like it
Yes.
is hard to be as talented as you were before, as hardworking and prepared as you were before, but there's not an opportunity that's clicking and aligning and you can't force it. And then, you know, it's been the same coming to MSNBC, where it's like there was just the initial opportunity of coming, which was getting an opportunity to be an anchor. There was then the opportunity to be on this morning show, which has felt like a rocket ship, and then the opportunity to move into prime time with my co-host Simone Sanders Townsend and Michael Steele for the weeknight. I have always been me. I have always been doing all the things I needed to do, but the opportunity had to open up. And because motherhood plays with your timing, where you're trying to get pregnant and then you're pregnant and then you're postpartum and you can't rush any part of the process, it gave me, it honed my ability slash inability to be patient and to understand that sometimes things need to happen in their time, and doing more isn't always the answer to getting more.
Mm. No, that's great advice. And honestly, I think you nailed it because I know when we become a mother, right, we worry a lot about that. And especially like you nailed it in this industry, there's only so many seats or whatever. And like, do I believe people create their own opportunities? Absolutely. You have. You
Yes,
have.
100%. And I think that, I think for me, a big a big learning was understanding that ideal for me was doing those two things in tandem.
Yeah.
Having opportunities that were institutional opportunities, things that existed where I was plugging into an opportunity that already existed, but also then building Latina to Latina, taking some of my own capital and investing it in Latina to Latina, such that I had, along with Juleka Antigua, who co-owns Latina to Latina with me, uh, a brand, a platform, a place where I was deciding editorial, and that I could do them together. I see a lot of people today who want to break into the industry, and I am so happy that there are young people who want to be in media and want to do storytelling. But I think we're in a weird moment where we have to be honest about the fact that the industry is contracting.
Yeah.
And if you are a person who wants to like have conversations, or a lot of that can be done on your own, separate from institutions. And I think once you liberate yourself from that idea, or at least get clarity around like, am I an institutional person? Does this need to happen within the walls of a place where I have resources and guidance, but maybe I don't have room to run, or I'm waiting for other people to see my potential, as compared to something that you create on your own that you fully own, and that you have the power of fully owning, where no one can ever kick you out or take it from you.
Yeah, I think you are the perfect example of that. Even like coming onto my podcast, like this is exactly what Mami Collective is as well. It's just my community that I've created. It's my podcast. Like you said, the institution is like I work for iHeartRadio, love them, plan on staying there till I always make a joke, till they either fire me or they wheel me out in a wheelchair because I'm too old. So they're like, okay, it's time to get off the radio, Nana. But honestly, I'm like, no, like I'm going to create something that is mine. And I always recommend that to people who want to do radio, TV, whatever. I'm like, well, what is that is sort of yours? And honestly, too, it does kind of give that it scratches the itch for like the creativity inside of us. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I'm like,
Yes.
do it, do it. Yeah.
And that's it for us. For someone else, it might be an Etsy print on demand business. Like
100%.
it can be something else, but having something that is yours, um, I it has absolved me of feeling that the work I do that compensates me needs to be everything. It needs to be the full representation of who I am. It needs to give everything to me. I think in some ways that's actually a lot to ask of a job.
Yeah. Oh, no, I completely agree. I love that you dropped that gem. So if you're trying to break into the industry of any kind, right? I mean, there's so much now too. I'm sure when you first started, like podcasting wasn't even a thing. It was not even a thing.
It was like
Right?
It was not a thing. It was not a thing. And I have watched it. I mean, that's the other thing. I think the benefit of having been doing this for the past 15 years. I have watched peaks and valleys
Mhm.
of streaming, of digital, of podcasting, of linear. And the people who will survive are the people who learn how to ride the wave.
Ooh, that's good. That's real good. I think I needed to hear that. I kind of did. I love it. Alicia, thank you for being here with us today. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for paving the way for so many of us in media, and then, of course, as moms too. And you're doing both, and you're killing it. Where can we watch you, see you, and listen to you, and social
So
media?
num so number one is MSNBC the weeknight 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. We'd love to see you there. We're having conversations about everything that is happening in the news, and I often feel as a mom like I am so overwhelmed by the deluge of news. So I think of this as a place where it's like if you have 1 hour a day, come to us and we will break it down for you and start a conversation that you can continue with other people in your life. It's available both on MSNBC, the cable station, but also as a podcast. You can listen to my podcast, Latina to Latina, available wherever you get your podcasts. And come see real women have curves. I cannot tell you how the music is fun and the whole show. Lin-Manuel Miranda calls it a joy machine. But there is something, I mean, the minute the curtains open and I see those women on stage together, I start crying. I lose it. I lose it from the beginning every time. Before they haven't even sung a note. And I'm like, I'm gone. And then I'm on Instagram at Alicia Menendez XO.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We appreciate you.